welcome to another episode of the Blitz. Today we've got a full house. I'm joined with my two co-hosts, Toni and Kieran. How are you guys?
I'm good, bro. How are you? Want to know? Teddy B. My Drew Lock stocks are down, but you know, is what it is.
Look, Teddy Bridgewater's a guy, and he's a Pro Bowler at the end of the day. So why not be your guy? How are you, Kieran? Anyway, I know you're not 1-0. You could be 0-2 by the end of this NFL week.
I'm good, man. Let's just not talk about the Giants.
Now we have to a little bit. We'll push on them a bit. And I'll say today we're joined. Delighted to be joined by Sam Farley, an NFL writer. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm a Jags fan, so things could be better for me as well.
Oh,
but yeah,
good. I've got week one. Done Kieran in week one, and then I've got week two as well. Look at that. Yeah.
But it's gonna be good because we'll touch on the Jags a bit. But I think to start off with, we did have Monday Night Football, and one of the teams that was involved in there was the Raiders. And surprisingly, they actually beat the Ravens. So if you look at it, you've got the AFC West and the NFC West. All the divisions both are undefeated. I'm going to come to you, Sam, first. Did you expect that going at the end of week one, or did you expect at least one or two of them teams to slip up and lose based on who they were playing?
Yeah, I mean, the NFC West I thought would be a clean sweep there. If I'm honest, I think if the team coming out the NFC in the Super Bowl isn't from the West, I'd be incredibly surprised. But as for the AFC West, yeah, I didn't see that Raiders result coming, even with kind of the Ravens' injury problems. It was a bit of a shock. Broncos, I wasn't overly confident on, if I'm absolutely honest. Sorry to say that. But it's Chiefs and Chargers, really good teams. But ultimately, I think you've got to be impressed by what every single one of those AFC West teams did.
Now, Toni, on you guys, as I said, this will be quite easy for yourselves. When you watched the Broncos game, were you at any point nervous? I mean, you got Bridgewater. I personally think he's your guy going forward anyway. I don't think that Drew Lock's going to be that guy. Do you start to believe that slowly? I know you are heavily invested in Drew Lock, or are you now siding with Teddy Bridgewater to be the guy for Denver?
Well, watching the game against the Giants, and I know it is the Giants, so I'm not going to get too overly gassed. But I've always said on the podcast, I've said it, on the Blitz, I've said it, that Denver is only a QB away from contending. We still have a very good defense. Obviously, we still have the best red zone defense in the league. And for the first time ever in about 3 or 4 years, I watched Denver have a competent QB for the first time ever. It felt good. It felt good to watch actual first downs and drives. I'm thinking, how many 3 and outs did we have? This is weird. So, listen, I'm going to hold my head up because during preseason and training camp, I wanted Drew Lock to be our starter. As you said, as you know, I've had my Drew Lock stocks. They've been high. But right now, I'm looking at them and I might sell my Drew Lock stocks, only because Teddy looked good. He looks really comfortable. And the reason as to why Teddy won the job is because he doesn't throw as many picks as Drew Lock. And Drew Lock threw the most picks in the NFL last season. So if you're doing that, you're not going to be the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And he looks good, man. There wasn't any time I thought, even when he was scrambling, he looks good. He looked exactly what he was doing. He was just going through the reads. Teddy's not going to get you a 20, 30-yarder, Patrick Mahomes play, even though he kind of could have if KJ Hamler decided to catch, but I digress. Because Teddy's going to get you the 10s and the 15s in your first downs, which I'm okay with. We have enough offensive playmakers. Obviously, Jerry Jeudy's out for a couple of weeks, which is a pain. But we still got Tim Patrick. We still got Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Noah Fant, Albert O. So, we have people on our offense who are decent. So right now, I'm happy. I'm with Teddy going forward. If Drew Lock doesn't play this season, I'm not gonna shed a tear. I'm not gonna cry a river for him. You know what I mean? So I'm happy as long as we keep winning and as long as we look decent. I'm not sure if you guys saw the video of Von Miller talking to Teddy after, where he was like, "I haven't felt that since 18 was here," which was kind of mad because Drew Lock's probably seen that. So now he's got Von Miller's approval, and if he's got Von Miller's approval, he's got my approval. So AFC West champion. No, I'm joking. Not AFC West champions, but I'm happy right now. I expect 3-0.
Wow. So, Kieran, both of our teams play in the NFC. When you look at the NFC West, I know Sam said that he'd be surprised if one of the teams from the NFC West don't make it to the Super Bowl. Are you on that same wavelength, or do you think you can see Tampa Bay repeating, or do you see possibly another team like the Packers, even though they got beat quite heavily by my Saints? Where do you see the NFC West in terms of strength of divisions, but also like individual teams going for the Super Bowl?
I think you've got to think that that's the strongest division in the league. Obviously, every single one of them won. If you look at the improvements that a lot of them teams have made, obviously the Rams one's quite obvious with Matt Stafford, the Cardinals picking up JJ Watt, the 49ers drafted a new quarterback who I think he got on the field for like a few minutes, didn't he? But yeah, sure, you've got to think that from that side, it's going to be one of them teams. Just on the Rams as well, Matt Stafford's going to make Cooper Kupp look like the best wide receiver that anybody's ever seen. Like, he had like nearly 1,000 yards last season. He could get like 3 million yards this season. Like, he looked insane the other day just from Matt Stafford just coming over and doing what he does. And I think he's shown that in Detroit, he wasn't really, he was all right, but I think it shows in a new system, they're going to be a very good team, and they're going to be one of the teams to look at coming the end of the season.
I can see that. For me, the only thing I have an issue with Matt Stafford is I just think, can you win football? If that makes sense. I see him still continues to put up numbers, and I can appreciate him now being in a better situation. I just look at him and think, are you a winner enough to make the Rams win the Super Bowl? Because with Jared Goff, at the end of the day, they got to the Super Bowl. For Matthew Stafford, for me to be a success, you have to be that next guy. Do you agree similarly with that, Sam? Or are you thinking if they can just progress to the Super Bowl, yeah, it's a success for Matthew Stafford and the Rams?
I think if they can match what they did with Goff, I'd say, depending on how they perform in terms of in the games, and because there's so many times with Goff, we just thought he's lucky he has Sean McVay and this defense around him to kind of help them get there. But Stafford, for me, I know what you mean about he maybe hasn't shown a winning mentality at times because the Lions didn't do so well. But I think now that was largely, I'd say, where he was. Whereas now he's got a really good defense around him. I think McVay's top 3 kind of offensive mind in the league. I just think they are in such a really good position to succeed here. And that you got guys like Van Jefferson suddenly looks like absolutely outrageous. Like I don't really understand what can stop them now. I think they look so good. But I mean, yeah, we kind of got to hold your horses a bit. It is week 1. Yeah. A lot can happen, but for me, I think the Bucs looks great on Thursday night, but I think the Rams are the team for me. I think they are scary now, really scary. Are
you guys in favor of that? I know, like Tony, you kind of still have that.
Really you know how I feel about Matthew Stafford. I feel he's a better quarterback than Jared Goff. Yes, he is, but Jared Goff got you to the Super Bowl. I don't think Matt Stafford gets this team to the Super Bowl, and that's not because of Matt Stafford, because I think the Rams have a great defense. I just feel like, not in this NFC, I feel like you still got to go against the Bucs, and Matthew Stafford doesn't beat the Bucs. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just, like, they were one win away, and Jared Goff wasn't going to be that person to win them the Super Bowl that year. It was a boring Super Bowl. No one even remembers the score. But under Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, yes, Matthew Stafford will get you numbers. We've seen him get numbers with Megatron. He will get numbers. And he's a good quarterback. But is he that level where I'm thinking, okay, cool, Matthew Stafford's going to take this team all the way to the Super Bowl? I don't think so. That's my own personal opinion. I feel like he's good enough to maybe win you the division, definitely go into the playoffs. But I just don't think he's that type of talent to win you a Super Bowl, especially in this stacked NFC. Like, I just personally don't see it. I know he's in a better situation than he was in Detroit. And Jared Goff isn't that bad. Like, I know, like, we had some terrible moments in LA, but if you saw like the end of the San Francisco game, like, Detroit nearly came back. Jared Goff is not that bad of a QB. He's not Matthew Stafford, but he's not that bad. Obviously, there's a difference between Stafford and Goff, but I just don't see Stafford just being the difference maker. Do you know what I mean? Do you see him as a difference maker to get them to a Super Bowl championship? Maybe he gets them to a Super Bowl And if he gets them to Super Bowl, congrats, but you still haven't done what Jared Goff done. Can he do better than Jared Goff, which is win the Super Bowl? I don't think he can. And that's not against him. That's just there's just better teams out there and better quarterbacks out there.
I think I'm with you. Like, I think Jared Goff kind of half became a bit of a scapegoat in LA when he went from the guy who got you to the Super Bowl to slowly, obviously, to repeat that. It's very hard. There's only been a few quarterbacks I can remember recently, Mahomes, Brady, Russell Wilson, that have been able to repeat the Super Bowl, going back-to-back to Super Bowls. But two quarterbacks now that I want to actually touch on, and two teams really that, for me, are AFC favourites to make the Super Bowl, and that's Cleveland and Kansas. In the game over the weekend, I looked at Cleveland and I thought they actually outplayed Kansas, aside from the ending. On the actual game itself, Sam, do you think Cleveland have kind of set a bit of a blueprint to show teams how to trouble Kansas? Because they could have done it in the playoffs. They were one play away. Heineke makes the play. Otherwise, Cleveland get the ball back. In this game, you have a muff punt, a poor set of Patrick Mahomes doing what he does. But other than that, I personally thought Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns actually played quite well against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, yeah, that's my question. Do you think they may have set like a mini blueprint on how to beat the Chiefs this season?
Yes and no. I think they have, but I think a lot of teams don't really have what the Browns have on defense or offense either. Really, I think this is a really good team, but the second best team in that conference, you'd have to say. And I think ultimately they can beat the Chiefs. Like, next time they play, they can definitely beat the Chiefs. But it is Patrick Mahomes, and he is that. I mean, I'm sure we all must agree he's the best player in football. Like, it's. I just don't think you can argue that. And I think having a player like that is so incredible, because he just got them out of a jam. And admittedly, there are a couple of mistakes here and there by the Browns, but when you have a player like Mahomes, you can't be bet against. Like, you just simply can't. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns went all the way. I think it's, there's a really strong possibility of that. But the Chiefs can still beat them, even though the Browns have their number, which is kind of scary, I think. And I mean, even it's like you mentioned the quality of the division earlier. I'll be honest, I think the Raiders were a bit lucky with the Ravens' injuries. There were some good moments, but the Chargers looked really, really good. And this is not going to be the easiest division to kind of win. Especially if the Chargers kind of carry on. I think Rashawn Slater, don't know if I pronounced his name right, Rashawn Slater, looks absolutely incredible left tackle. I think they just looked such an improvement from last year. I think don't know if you remember last year, we saw the Browns kind of had that leap on, and now they've kind of taken another step. I think the Chargers they're basically the 2021 Browns. So you've got three of the best teams in the conference probably in that division. Chargers not quite at the level of Chiefs and Broncos. Chiefs and I'm just talking absolute garbage now. Chiefs, but
right, if you like the Broncos, man, it's cool.
Sorry, right. I'm all over the place at the moment, but no, going back to it, the Browns are a really good team, and ultimately I think they should, for a good season for them, should be kind of winning this conference and getting to the Super Bowl. I think they're at the level now that is what you think that they deserve and what they should be expecting to do, which, I mean, if you even look at them 3 seasons ago, seems crazy to say, but they have improved so much. The coaching looks great. The roster is great with huge amounts of depth. I mean, they got probably 2 of the top 10 running backs in the league. They are just absolutely stacked, and defensively, they are going to cause problems for every single team they come up against this year.
Yes, so on Cleveland, one of the issues I used to always see with them is they had the opportunity to draft high, and they would draft a quarterback and it would always go wrong. I know we've touched on Baker previously, but can we look at Baker now based on what he's done previously, even just on this game week as well, and possibly for the rest of the season, and look at him as officially Cleveland's quarterback problem solver? Or are people still looking at him to say he's still got problems where towards the end of the game where he tripped and threw that interception. Sorry, can he really remove little things like that, or can we now slot him as the solver for Cleveland and be the quarterback going forward permanently? I'll go to Kieran for that.
I think the problem with the Browns in that game was that they lost the game for themselves with a lot of different mistakes that they made. One of them being the fact that he threw a pick in the fourth quarter. He looked very good throughout the game, but I think it's more of a problem. The Chiefs are a really difficult team to beat, obviously, and if you look at the Browns system, where, as Sam said, they've got two of the best running backs in the league, and Jarvis Landry, who runs the ball and throws the ball and everything. And Baker Mayfield does look like a very good player. I think it's just more so there are a lot of mistakes in the team as a whole, and I think it's all of them that need to get out of making those mistakes rather than just him. And if as a team they can do that, I don't see any problem with him taking them as far as they can go. And obviously it's the first game of the season, so to say they could go on and win the division, or they could go on and win the Super Bowl or whatever, I don't know. But from watching him and how he was throwing the ball and how he played, other than the pick, he was very good. So yeah, I think he should be their quarterback for at least the next sort of 5 years, in my opinion.
And one quarterback I want to touch on quickly before we look at some rookies is Cam Newton. I know, Tony, he's your guy, as in like you do root for him quite a bit. Based on what you've seen, kind of just from week one, I'm looking into like what week 2, week 3 and stuff. Where do you think Cam Newton fits in terms of the quarterback debate, and is he going to possibly sign on for a team to become a starter? Would be a second string backup?
Looking at a team now, if I could think of one team that might need someone like Cam Newton, I would maybe say the Washington football team. Only because I'm trying to think of, like, not every quarterback had a good game, but for instance, Jacksonville, rookie, Jets, rookie, the Texans, they got Tyrod. I'm only thinking of a team right now. Fitzpatrick is out. He was out injured, and they got Heineke. And unless they believe in Heineke, maybe Cam could slot in there. But I don't expect to see Cam within a team right now. I feel like every team is still week one. Like, we've got 16 more of these to go. Do you know what I mean? It's too rash to make a quarterback decision straight away, unless the only quarterback that starts week one is not going to start week 2 is unless, let's say, Andy Dalton gets injured and Justin Fields comes in. If it's that situation, if your backup is ready to go and he's like a first round prospect, but if not, I don't see any quarterback changes anytime soon. And it's unfortunate for Cam. He's a free agent, but go enjoy some holiday. Do you know what I mean?
With that, Sam, do you kind of agree with the Washington fit? Because I look at it and I kind of do agree with what Tony's saying. I feel like that division's open for anybody to take it. I do put Dallas in the prime position, but if you do put someone like Cam Newton with the defense that Washington have, I think you can see them as second favorites. Do you look at it that way as well, as a potential destination for him?
I'm kind of a bit torn. I think obviously that they have the kind of weakest starting QB going into week 2 because of the Fitz injury. But it sounds like, from what I read, he could be back in 6 weeks. And I think Cam's incredibly unlucky in some reasons because of, one, his personality. He's such a kind of locker room guy that he almost has to be the man. And 2, I think just his kind of playing style is different to a number of other QBs. And I think what's going to hold against him for the Washington football team is, if it's only a 6-week gap till you go and get Fitz back, by the time you've got kind of Cam in, you've got him up to speed with what you need. You're probably a couple of weeks deep into that already. And then are you going to have to change the playbook slightly to accommodate him? I'd say possibly, yeah. And at that point, unless you think he's going to be the man going forward and take Fitzmagic's spot permanently, then I almost don't think it's worth doing, which is bonkers because I like him and I think he's good. I think realistically we will see him as a starting QB this year, but I think it'll probably end up as it'll be somebody that we we're not even thinking of right now. We see an injury and he'll kind of come in and just be the guy to finish for that team. But for where Washington are in their kind of development, I don't think he's 100% right. And ultimately, Ron Rivera got on so well with him in Carolina, and he's not picked up the phone over the last however long since he's been there to get Cam involved. I think if he was going to do it, he'd already have done it, and now isn't the right time, which is a huge shame. But I think we will see him back in the NFL at some point this season.
Two quarterbacks that we probably won't see out of the NFL for a while are Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence. Now, Sam, being a Jags fan that you just said, when you look at both them quarterbacks, firstly, who had the better week? And two, how bad will it get for both of them before you can slowly see the tide for them to become a winning quarterback in both their respective teams?
Yeah, so I mean, who had the better week's a tough one. I'd say potentially Wilson, but both of them kind of showed us glimpses of why they were taken so high, and also glimpses of the fact they are clearly rookies. They're still learning, and let's be honest, they are on awful teams, which isn't going to help. And I think this is something going to another rookie QB. When Trey Lance eventually gets his shot, obviously being in a really good team, he's going to look so good straight away, I think. But going back to Lawrence and Wilson, I think you could really kind of see, like, Wilson's arm looked spectacular. I think there was a pass he made for Elijah Moore that didn't quite connect, but he's going to be a seriously good football player, I think. But he had a shocking first half. I think his QBR improved significantly in the second half, even once Becton went down injured, his left tackle. So I kind of think seeing him kind of take that awful first half on the chin, improve in the second half, see his left tackle go down and still keep improving, I think that kind of shows a lot about him as a man, as a leader. And ultimately, I think he's going to be really good there. And I think the Jets have, of the two teams, they're probably the one who are going to improve the quickest, because I think they have a lot more kind of capable tools. I think Robert Saleh, the new head coach, being so kind of defensive minded and did such a great job as a DC in San Francisco, I think they all kind of toughen up on that side of the ball. And ultimately, it's not going to be this year. Maybe next year, I think they'll be half decent, and I think they will progress over the next couple of seasons. For Trevor Lawrence, I hate to say it, it's going to be a long couple of years for him, I think. Urban Meyer, I'm not 100% sold. There are some interesting things going on there. The defense looked, I can't swear, obviously, they looked dreadful. And he was kind of 3 really, really good touchdown passes, but obviously 3 interceptions to go with that. He was probably trying to force it a little bit too much. I think he had 51 attempts. Like, it's just ridiculous numbers, really. But I think we're going to see this. It's going to be an odd year for him. I think we're going to see some moments where we think this guy could be the real deal, and some other moments where we think, he's going to be out of the league within a couple of months. But ultimately, I really do believe in his talent, and I think in the next couple of years we'll see him as one of the kind of top guys. I kind of predicted before the season he'd be a top 10 guy by the end of the year. After watching week 1, and I know it's just week 1, there's no chance that team's too bad. But I think, it's going to be a long and slow road. But I think Wilson will probably get there ahead of Lawrence. But Lawrence, I think in the long run, probably has the talent to have a better career.
So on Sam's point, Toni, do you still believe, because on the betting side of things, Trevor Lawrence is still the favorite to win Rookie of the Year? Do you still believe that, based on what Sam said, that he will do, or someone who is in a better situation, like a Fields or a Jones, if they get onto the field, they have more wins, they take a team to a playoff, can they then become the guy to win Rookie of the Year over Lawrence, who is the favorite right now?
Unfortunately, because these awards, they're based on narrative, right? So Trevor Lawrence looked good, but unfortunately his offense is not great. Like, you guys have Shark, LaVisca Chenault, not really great. Like, I have to beat him in Madden right now, and I'm not really throwing to that many people. So Jacksonville don't have a great offense. Trevor Lawrence is a good QB, and I watched Trevor Lawrence for a long time. So for him to win Offensive Rookie of the Year or the Rookie of the Year in general, like he's gonna have to A, put up numbers, and B, try to get some wins on the board. Yes, he can put up numbers. He got 3 touchdowns, but Jacksonville are not going to win games. Then you've got people like Mac Jones who's going to win a significant amount more games than Trevor Lawrence. That's a better narrative. If Andy Dalton sucks for another couple of games, don't be surprised if Justin Fields comes in. And if he goes on a run, boom, that's your Rookie of the Year right there. So right now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, and he needs to work on his mistakes. Like, obviously you'll learn about it. It's your first NFL game. It's his first actual regular season loss in his footballing career, which is the craziest that I've ever heard. But I don't see Trevor Lawrence winning it. And that's not because of talent, because I still think he's the best QB of that class. It's just the situation you're in. And unfortunately, when you're the best, you get picked for the worst team, and it's your job to try and fix that. But yeah, don't be surprised if you see like Mac Jones or Justin Fields winning it, because they've got better teams around them.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Now, I am going to move on to our Thursday night football game, just quickly touch on that. So, Kieran, this is where you're going to have to talk about it, unfortunately. Washington versus the Giants. I'm not sure what happened to your quarterback. He was meant to be this guy that you kind of started believing in a bit, but he's regressed. Saquon Barkley, he's not fully healthy. If like just sitting here, how do you convince anybody or even yourself that you think the Giants can go into Washington on a short week and win this divisional game? The only thing I have in your favor is your quarterback is 4-0 against Washington, but that is all I can see. What do you think about the game yourself?
Do you know, Dan Jones didn't even look that bad the other day. Like, I think the thing that made the Giants look a lot worse than the Broncos the other day was that Bridgewater had a lot more time to throw the ball than Jones did, because the Giants O-line isn't very good. And you could tell that the Broncos O-line was a lot better structured. So it looked like Bridgewater had like 5 seconds longer to throw the ball than Jones did. I mean, he showed glimpses of what he could do on that final drive. I can't remember. I think it was a running touchdown in the end. But he looked all right. And Shepard and Golladay both looked very good. Obviously, you can see the skill positions are okay. Obviously, Shepard has been quite a good receiver over the past few years. I can't remember how many yards he had last season, but I think he was all right. And Golladay pulled out a few decent catches. You can obviously see that Saquon Barkley isn't quite fit yet, but I think it'll just come down to who protects the quarterback better. Obviously, Taylor Heineke, not a very good quarterback. You could say Dan Jones isn't a very good quarterback. It will just come down to who can make the most throws, to be fair, because it's not like Mahomes against Tom Brady or something that you're going to see like 40 points a team. It's going to be who can protect the quarterback better. And will that be the Giants? From looking at the game the other day, probably not, but it's not like he looked terrible. So there's a chance, but I'm not holding out hopes that it's going to be a very good game.
And Sam, with yourselves for week 2, what are you looking for in terms of, is there any certain teams aside from your own, or even like certain games and matchups that you feel like could be quite interesting?
Yeah, I think there's kind of 2 games that I'm kind of really looking forward to, and one of them I can't believe I'm saying this, because literally before Sunday I'd be like, that is going to be an absolute walkover. But Monday Night Football, Lions, Packers, there's a lot to kind of unpack there, pun not intended. But the Lions, admittedly it was garbage time, but they kind of didn't look anywhere as near as bad as I thought. And is it Dan Campbell, their head coach, is absolutely hilarious. Like, I love watching him like animated on the sideline. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, we've got to see something from Green Bay. They really need to perform, because they looked absolutely woeful this last week. And the other one, kind of a team I've mentioned already, I think are kind of really going to take a step up this year, is the Chargers. And they play the Cowboys in the, I think, 9 p.m. slot on Sunday. And I think that's going to be a really good game. So, you know, two QBs that have got an arm, lots of good, talented skill position players, a few question marks on defenses, definitely for the Cowboys and a little bit for the Chargers. I think it's going to be an exciting game, that. And I think the Chargers could really shock a few people.
What about you, Tony? Is there any like standout games that you are looking at, or is it just following the Denver Broncos and just kind of going 2-0?
Broncos country, baby. No, I was gonna say my one. I was gonna watch the Chargers and the Cowboys only because they're the Chargers. Like, I'm not as convinced as Sam as the Chargers.
I'm not.
Only because, one, they're in my division. Two, we played them twice, and two, we kind of normally beat them. So I'm not. And I think Justin Herbert is good, but I once put my stocks in a QB from Oregon, and that was Marcus Mariota, and now he's just back up to Derek Carr. So I'm kind of trying to avoid stocks into QBs from Oregon. But I do like Justin Herbert. I think he's a good QB. I think he has made the Chargers better. I still don't think the Chargers are better than the Broncos, in my personal opinion. But obviously, there's a bit of bias. There's a bit of bias towards that. Only because like we have a good defense, we've improved our defense, and now we have a competent QB. But yeah, I'm also looking forward to the Broncos. I feel like week 2 and Teddy. Let's see. It should be an easy game against Jacksonville. No offense, Sam, but
it will be.
Yeah, it will be. And I just want to see us keep rolling. See how we do without Jerry Jeudy, and just make it 2-0 because momentum's everything in this league. If we get 3-0 against the Jets the week after, then hey. People then Sam will believe we're better than the Chargers.
I mean, are you thinking playoffs? If let's say you went 3-0, are you slowly then?
100%. I know this is going to sound a bit crazy, but I've always said Denver are not a bad team. As bad as our record has been for the past couple of years, we still kind of have a very good defense. We've had the best red zone defense in the league for the past two seasons. We added a good cornerback in Patrick Surtain. We kind of changed our secondary. We still got one of the best safeties in the league in Justin Simmons. And then Bradley Chubb and Von Miller barely played together. So people haven't even seen that good pass rush just yet. So we still have a really good defense. We've now kind of improved our offense with Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, who people are starting to rate now, Pro Bowler. Melvin Gordon as well. We saw what he can do when he's still we still kind of have the old Chargers Melvin Gordon, like there's still a player in there. So, there's a lot riding for the Broncos right now. Obviously, from that 1-0 win, we're kind of happy, and I'm going to exaggerate a bit. But I'm thinking, 3-0, why should I not start thinking playoffs? I did say we're either going to win 9 or 10 games this season. I looked at the schedule and said, win, loss. I gave us 2 losses to the Chiefs, 1 to the Chargers, just because I'm feeling nice, even though I don't think we'll lose to the Chargers. But 10 wins. 10 wins, a cheeky wild card. I'll be all right with that. We won't win our division, but I'll be all right with that. It's an improvement.
Just quickly, Sam, I'm going to have to put you on the spot here. If you had to pick a team that would be, I guess, an upset team to make the playoffs, what would it be and why?
That's a tough one. I mean, I don't want to blow any more smoke, but I do think the Broncos could be that team. They are legitimately quite good.
Come on, you Broncos.
I put a bet on the Broncos to win the Super Bowl a couple of months ago. Admittedly, I thought Aaron Rodgers might end up there, and I still don't think that's out of the realms of possibility. But I mean, like you said, I don't think you're like a championship level team just yet, but like you're not really that far off. And I think Judy's back 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks.
And he looked in the short time he was on the field, he looked really, really good. And I thought he might be primed to kind of really break out this year. And if he comes back in good condition, and he does, I mean, you've got a lot of good pass catchers there, a couple of decent running backs, a QB I think he has a ceiling, but he has also a very high floor. I think he's just a good, solid kind of NFL pro. Yeah. And a good defense. I think that could really take you a long way. And let's be honest, if you were in a different division, I don't think this would even be a particularly wild thing to say. I think you're just unfortunate, really, in the teams you have in the division.
Being the Chiefs, that's fair enough. But that's another episode of the Blitz Roundup. Sam, before we let yourselves go, what we tend to do is just give you an opportunity to shout out where people can see your content, and obviously any social handles that you have as well.
So you can see my content on covers at the moment, but find me on Twitter at Farley Writes, and I always share everything there. So give me a follow.
Perfect, guys. Again, thank you, Sam, for coming on. Obviously, you can follow us on the @zoneldn and the @zone_ldn on Twitter and Instagram. Guys, is there anything you want to plug yourselves that you're doing that nobody knows?
The Zone. Follow the Zone. We already said it, but yeah.
Perfect. That's another episode of the Blitz done. Thank you again, Sam, for coming on, and everybody, peace.